This gentleman is a certified hospitality accountant executive from HFTP. He's a hotel financial coach. He's a hospitality financial leadership pioneer. And one thing that came to mind when we were inviting David to come and be a speaker, he says, because it's about, our tagline is pivot and adapt and implement, but we felt that you can be creative in inventing ideas, but you got to be disciplined while implementing them. And the question that many of you have been asking us, which we can see the questions are related to how do we manage finances, what are we going to do during this situation where we're going out. And I think David is the perfect person to come in and handle this part of our webinar, because he has held positions as regional controller, corporate director, hotel manager with international brands for over 30 years. David has authored an award-winning workshop on financial leadership, and he's delivered it to hundreds of hotel managers globally. He's a mentor to hospitality leaders, and he constantly speaks at hospitality associations and company events. He publishes a weekly, and I'm sure all of you would want to jump in after this session and connect to David and read, because he has written more than 150 original articles in numerous hotel trade magazines. He's also an author of the book, The 7 Secrets to Create a Financially Engaged Leadership Team in Your Hotel. So, ladies and gentlemen, without us taking any more time, I would like to present on screen right now Mr. David Lund. Mr. David, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Earl. Much appreciated for the introduction, and welcome everyone. It's great to be with you this morning. It's morning here in the great state of Maine in the United States. I'm actually from Canada originally, and I want to welcome all of our colleagues and friends from the Middle East, from EAU. I want to wish all of you a blessed Ramadan as well. And today I want to talk about implementing. What can you do in your career? What can you do in your company? What can you do maybe during this downtime to actually improve your personal prosperity? How can you bring something into your world, and how can you create? So with that, I want to talk a bit about our business. And our business is such that, and you all know this, but you can start out in this business as I did. That's not me, but as a dishwasher. That was my first job in this business. And you can make it all the way to be the president, the chairman of the company. And there's many stories in our industry about people that have done exactly that. Now, I've never been a president, but I've started as a dishwasher, and I've done some amazing things in my career. And in our business, it's still possible, and it's possible for you, even now with what's going on. I would say it's even more possible. So the kind of conversations that go on around our industry and have gone on in the past, this is a popular one where someone would ask the CEO or the hotel GM, what happens if we invest in our people and they leave? And the answer is, what happens if we don't invest in them and they stay? Now, our industry is in for a lot of change, as always, and our business has changed a lot. But what doesn't change, and what I believe will become even more important, is how we treat our people and how we invest in them and how we develop them. So I want to tell you a little story about me. About 10 years ago, I was the director of finance at a very large hotel in Toronto, Canada. And I'd been there a few months and things weren't going well. And the reason why things weren't going well was because I couldn't put together a forecast that was accurate for the owners. And month after month, we would miss on our projections. And the owner was getting, the owner's asset manager was getting very frustrated with me. And I knew exactly what the problem was. The problem was I couldn't get the other managers and department heads in that hotel to submit their forecasts so I could consolidate them. I couldn't get them to hand in their accruals at the end of the month. I couldn't get them to write their commentary. I couldn't get them to do just about anything when it came to the numbers. And along about the same time that this was happening, a new general manager joined us, and she sat down with me and said, David, tell me what's going on in finance and accounting, give me an update. And I told her about my challenge about getting the other managers to play ball with me, to do their part financially. And she listened intently, and she said, you know, David, I have an idea. Why don't you put together a workshop? We can call it Hotel Finances for Dummies, which is a popular series of books. And you can tell everyone and teach everyone why it's so important. And I looked at her and I said, you know, I don't have time to do that, nor am I a teacher. And she just looked at me and said, you know, David, it's the right thing to do. And to make it easier for you, I'm going to make it part of your personal bonus criteria. No workshop, no bonus for David. How's that sound? Well, I'm sure you can imagine what I did and what I needed to do. But as the days wound down to the first financial leadership workshop that I was to conduct, HR handpicked and invited 30 of the worst performers in the hotel, the department managers and assistants. And as the days approached, I was scared. I was pretty sure that my workshop was going to suck, that I was going to suck, and that I would probably die delivering this workshop. But you know, the day arrived for the workshop, and I delivered it. I didn't die. I'm here today, so that's proof that I didn't die. And it went over fairly well, I thought. I made some really good ground with people. They asked some good questions, and I wound up the day. I thanked them. I sent them on their way. And to my complete surprise, a couple of the leaders stayed behind to thank me. And they said things like, you know, how come we didn't get this training from day one? I've been here 5 years. No one's ever explained the P&L to me. I heard all kinds of comments like that. And I was totally blown away. And I knew in that moment that I was onto something, because in our industry, we don't train people around the finances. We have some kind of way of having them learn it through trial and error, through a little bit of suffering. And that's wrong. So I set about in that moment and I said, you know, I'm going to change this. This is my calling in my life, to change this. So for the next 10 years, I delivered that workshop and modified and created new workshops. And every time I train someone or a group of leaders in a hotel or do one-on-one work, I always experience the same four things. And I want to share those with you today. The first thing is that leaders can see their impact. And as an individual, we all have the same need to make a difference in our lives. And that's an intact human condition. We all need to make a difference. So when you can show people that their numbers are used and make a difference, you're showing them that they have impact. That's so important. The second thing is that when you get a group of leaders together to talk about the finances in their departments or their hotels, they all see the same thing. They all see that it's the same in each department, each hotel, and it's really not so difficult. So a lot of the mystery and a lot of the confusion evaporates when we start talking about these things. The third thing is, and I'm going to share how I measure this at the end of my presentation with you this morning, is there's a measurable return on investment, ROI, for this kind of training. There's a measurable return on investment for the hotel, for the company, and for you as an individual. The fourth thing, and this was the most impactful for me, is that it really revealed what was wrong with my personal leadership style at that point. And by conducting the workshop and by educating the leaders in my hotel, I was actually serving them. And there's a saying that goes like this, that if serving is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you. So for every single one of you out there, and I know many of you replied that you're in management, especially you as a manager, your job is to serve the people that work for you. It's not their job to serve you. And that's what I learned in this workshop by serving the leaders in my hotel, by educating them, by training them. They were more than willing to reciprocate and serve me. And in a very short period of time, just a few months, the financial culture in our hotel totally changed. And those leaders were coming to me with ideas and with getting their reports in on time and getting the things that I needed on time. So that's what it's all about, is serving. Leadership is serving. So I want to tell you another little story about what financial leadership really is. And it's really probably not what you think. And I'll tell you a story about a GM that I worked with. And I was the assistant controller in this hotel, and I'd only been the assistant controller for a short period of time. And my boss, Michael, came into my office and said, David, I've got good news and bad news. What would you like first? And I thought, oh no, what's going on? I said, well, give me the bad news. He says, well, you're going to be doing the budget this year. I said, oh, yeah. And I said, well, what's the good news? He says, the good news is I'm going away for 6 weeks and you get to do it with this guy, the new GM. And I was like, oh my, this doesn't sound good, because this new GM as well had a bit of a reputation already in the hotel as being very difficult, being hard to work with. Sure enough, the next week, Michael left on his holiday, and this guy called me to his office and said, you know, I'm really not pleased with the way the managers in this hotel deal with their numbers. I want all of that to change, and we're going to do it through the budget process this year. We're going to do zero-based expenses, and we're going to do staffing guides in each one of our departments. And one by one, we had meetings with each department manager, explained this to them. And then subsequently, they had to go and put together their budgets for the following year and present them to us. Well, I've never seen so many people in accounts payable and in payroll and in human resources trying to figure out their expenses and their staffing guides. And one by one, they presented their budgets. Many of them were asked to go back and get more information. But at the end of those 6 weeks, when my boss returned from his holiday, we had a budget, and every single manager in that hotel knew what was in the middle of their statement. They understood their expenses and their payroll. And the thing about this GM that's quite interesting is that he didn't know the first thing about accounting. He didn't know the difference between a debit and a credit. All he was concerned with and all he was fascinated with was that each one of his managers knew what was in their statement. That's financial leadership. Not about accounting, it's about business thinking. And for all of you, that's the key message here, business thinking. So, polling question. Does your current role or the role you most recently have involve some aspect of financial responsibility, like budgets, forecasts, reports, and such? So, Earl, I'll turn it back to you for a
Yes,
moment to
let's throw that
tally
poll
the
out. Yes,
number.
let's roll that poll out. Ash, if you with me, and here's the question to all of you on the screen. Do you or did you have a role before that involved responsibility in some aspect of finance? You either select a yes or you select a no. So let's start getting your responses in, everybody. It's just a yes or a no, that's all. Did you or did you have a role before that involved responsibility with some aspect of finance? Come on, we'd like to see as many of you vote as possible. And we can see a lot of the votes coming in right now. Thank you so much, guys, for reaching out and pressing that yes or no button. It helps David know who he's talking to and understand his audience. And brilliant. I think we've got most of our audience has polled. Let's close the poll and let's share the results with David. David, the results are that 84% of our audience and our attendees listening right now have said yes, that they have been involved in some responsibility aspect of finance. 16% have said no. So over back to you.
Wow, 84%. That's a pretty big number. So that's great, because I think it really is indicative of our audience and the people we have. So I'm going to switch back to my screen. And I want to switch gears. So knowing that 85% of the people have something to do with numbers, I want to talk about a really important concept. and I call it the 3 pillars. And it's really a key understanding of our industry. So in our business, there are what I call 3 pillars: guest service, colleague engagement, and the money, or the owner, or the P&L. And my question to all of you is, how do we treat them? And do we treat them equally if they're really pillars? Well, the first pillar is guest service. And when you think about it, it's a no-brainer. Guest service is at the very heart of our business. And when you look at how we create guest service and the training we do and the standards we have and everything we do in our hotels to create guest service, the owner pays for that. The owner pays for all of the wages, they pay for the uniforms, they pay for absolutely everything. The brand doesn't pay, the management company doesn't pay, it's the owner. The second pillar is colleague engagement, and that's how we engage the people that we work with, and how we train them, and how we do employee opinion surveys and provide them uniforms and name tags and the areas in which they work. Absolutely everything that we do around colleague engagement, the same applies. The owner pays for it. It's not the brand, it's not the management company, the owner pays. Well, the third pillar of our business is the owner, or the money. And why is this pillar so different? Why is it so unevolved? Well, this was pounded into my head when I was working in service, when I was working in rooms and food and beverage in the first 10 years of my career. And it goes like this: look after the guests and the money will look after itself. Well, that's a myth. The money never looks after itself. That's why we are so uninvolved. Also, in our business, it's taboo to talk about money. Talking about money is paramount to talking about other things that are very uncomfortable for some people. But what I say and what I know is we need to get over it. If we really want to have greater financial leadership and abilities in our business, we have to share the financials. We can't have it as a secret. The other reason we're so uninvolved is we all come from an owner-operator world. But guess what? Today, we now find ourselves in a very different place. Things have changed. We find ourselves in a world where owners expect to find a financially engaged leadership team inside of our hotels. And the question is then, who would pay for this investment in financial leadership? Who would pay to train our managers and leaders around the finances? Well, the owner would pay, just like the owner pays for absolutely everything else inside of our business, like colleague engagement and service. The owner would pay to train them. Well, who would benefit from this advanced financial leadership abilities inside of the hotel? Well, guess what? Everyone would benefit. The owner, the leaders inside of your business, the brands, the management companies, and you. Everyone benefits. And that turns me now to my next polling question. Do you think being more comfortable with the numbers in your career would equal greater opportunities for advancement in the future? Earl.
Let's roll that poll. Ash, if you can roll it out. Do you think being more comfortable with the numbers in your career would equal greater opportunities for advancement? It's a yes or no question, people. Let's have you vote very quickly and let's see what you have to feel. Do you think it's going to make you advance in your career far further than you are right now if you learned more about numbers and how to work with numbers? Let's have some more people coming in now and sharing. We can see a lot of you are reaching out now for your computers and typing in that poll and submitting it, a yes or no question. Very simple yes or no question, guys. We would like to know from you. What do you think? And brilliant. We're getting a lot of people coming in, and I think we can close the poll. So let's close that poll, and here's the results. David, and I'm not sure if you're surprised with the answer. It's 100%. Everybody says yes. They
100%.
need to be more comfortable with numbers. So I'll let you take over.
Excellent, thank you. So obviously, it's going to be a very high result of traction when it comes to having a more prosperous career if we have more skills and ability around the numbers. So this is a great opportunity during this time to actually be able to do that. So let's switch back to the screen and I'll continue with my presentation. So just waiting for it to switch back. Is there anything I need to do on my end?
No, it's just about there. If you can just click the slideshow. The slideshow button on your end, David, in the bottom.
There is no slideshow button.
On your screen, if you can, it's open the presentation, but if you can just go down to the slideshow button and commence the slideshow.
Sorry, folks. I'll be right with you. All right, we're back. Thanks for your patience. So I want to switch gears again, and I want to talk about a really important distinction that all of you can use, and it goes like this. It's the how-to versus the want-to with managing the numbers. So in our world, in my world, I want to tell you a little story from home. And a few years ago, I was living in San Francisco with my wife, and our daughter Allison finished university, and she wanted to move to San Francisco from Canada and start her career. So she moved in with us, and I found out right away that she was pretty messy. And for the life of me, I couldn't get her to keep her room clean. And we lived in a small condo, so it was kind of challenging. But you know, it would never dawn on me to buy her a book or send her on a course to learn how to clean her room. She knows how to clean her room. So what's missing? What's missing is she doesn't want to clean her room. So if I'm going to have any success with Allison keeping her room clean, it's over there on the at the level of wanting to. And when we talk about the business of managing the departmental finances inside of our hotel, it's exactly the same thing, because it's really not that complicated when it comes to managing the payroll and expenses. And that's what we need our leaders to be able to do. But what makes it complicated is that it's a big job involving many departments, and many of these people, and perhaps some of you would already say, we're busy enough. Well, there are 4 reasons why leaders really don't want to take responsibility for their numbers. So these are the 4 things that we want to remove. The first thing is that someone usually makes up the forecast for them. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that the leaders inside of our businesses, inside of our hotels, do their own forecasting and do their own budgeting. The second thing is we don't have a good financial communication system for them to follow. And I don't mean that we don't have a good computer system. I mean communication system. 3 is we don't make sure that they take enough time to properly manage their numbers. We can't be doing the numbers at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon and expect that they're going to be of good quality. And the 4th thing is that we don't talk about, and leaders don't understand, what a positive impact being able to manage their numbers has for their career and their own personal prosperity. So how can we increase the want to when it comes to having your leaders manage their finances? Well, the first thing is that we need to be able to show and lead our managers around the idea that these skills are really good for their career. We need to be able to show them that. Number 2 is we need to show the leaders, and they need to be able to see that having impact and creating the want to around the finances is a natural thing. And this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And the need to make a difference is right in between the top 2 parts of the pyramid, between self-actualization and esteem. Number 3 is by showing your leaders that you're committed to their development, it's priceless. So think about your own career and think about the people that have helped you. What would you be willing to do for them? This is the opportunity you have right now to help them. Number 4, What about you? Don't you want to have a financially engaged leadership team? And don't you want to have greater chance of making successful bids towards your budgets and your forecasts? Of course you do. So one thing that's really important to understand in our business is that it's crazy to want to have perfection. When it comes to service, it's never going to be perfect. And we realize that. But we come to work every day and we strive to keep service levels very high. Number two is when it comes to our colleagues, we know that they're never, ever, ever going to do everything exactly the way we want, but we don't give up on it. We come to work every day and we set the bar really high. Well, guess what? When it comes to the numbers, it's exactly the same thing. Things are never going to be perfect, and we need to accept that. The numbers are just another part of our job, and the job is never done, just like it is with service and engagement. And I love asking this question in my workshops and one-on-one with my individual clients. The question is, what's the one thing we know for sure about the budget and the forecast? And I get all kinds of great answers, but very rarely do I get the correct one. And the correct answer is the only thing we know about the budget and the forecast is it's wrong. That's right. So, polling question. Is this presentation relevant to your interests? So let's turn it over to you,
Let's get
Earl.
them on. All right. So
This,
here's the question, guys, to all of you who are listening with rapt attention to David. He would like to know if this presentation is relevant to your interests. So it's a yes or no question. Very simple. Put it down there. Let us know what you think. And it's coming in droves right now, David. And I think I can just jump this straight away and tell you what everybody is saying. You can just close the poll right now. I would say a lot of people, around 94%, are saying yes. This
beautiful.
presentation is relevant. Only a 6% said it didn't help them out, but 94% on this attendee list said this helped them out a
I'll
lot.
take
Back to you.
94%. I'll take 94%. Thank you. Let's see if I can do this right this time when it comes to. There we go. Okay, so let's switch gears yet again and talk about the system for creating financial leadership. So this is what I teach clients. This is what I teach hotels to do. The first part is every line needs an owner. And what we mean by that is we really want to go through the financial statement and assign every single line of revenue, payroll, expense, cost of goods to an individual. It's so key that we know who's responsible for it. Make sure they agree to it, but let's do it line by line. The second part is what I call the monthly financial circle. And for a lot of people, we look at it as it's a curse, but it's really a blessing. We need to realize that each month the window opens and closes in our hotel, and that's an opportunity for us to start over, to figure out what worked, what didn't work, improve the things that didn't work. And then the financial circle has 5 parts, and I've made up an acronym because we just love acronyms in our business. I call it FTARW. The first part is forecast. Get those individuals to do their forecast, consolidate it, make sure we use their numbers. Don't use our numbers. 2, teach them to track their revenues, track how we're doing month to date. Are we going to make our numbers? And this is where we need to pivot. We need to adjust our purchase orders and adjust our schedules based on the latest forecasts. And at the end of the month, we want them to review. We want them to review their financials, review their GLs. And the 5th part is write their commentary. Tell us what worked and tell us what didn't. And every single month, we want to teach our leaders to do these 5 things. That's it. That's all they need to do. And this is typically what it looks like when I start with a client. Nobody's doing this inside of the hotel. But month after month, what we see when we do workshops on a continuous basis is we see improvement. And before we know it, we've got a very large number of managers doing their stuff, and it completely changes the financial culture inside of the hotel. So let's switch gears again. I told you in the beginning I would talk about return on investment for this training, and this is what a client of mine taught me. And it kind of goes like this. There's 30 workshop participants, and at the end of the workshop, we ask each and every one of them to find $250 in savings next month inside of their department. Just $250. And we asked them to all agree to that. And when we look at the math that this creates, $250 times 30 participants times 12 months, because once they found it once, they just found it for every month this year. That's $90,000 in GOP for the hotel. But that $90,000 is actually worth over $1 million to the owner, because when we look at how that impacts the cap rates and the sale value of the hotel, we need to take that 90,000 and multiply it using a cap rate of 8, in this case, by 12.5. That's over $1 million. And when you look at your own career and you look at your own ability to generate a salary, ask yourself, how many years do you have left? And let's say for instance you're 35 and you've got another 30 years in your career. Well, how much more money does your boss make than you? And if the answer is, say, $50,000, take that $50,000 and multiply it by 30. That's $1.5 million. So think about your own return on investment and what having greater financial leadership skills would mean to you in your career. So with that, I want to offer you guys some stuff. I give away this amazing guidebook on my website. So all you have to do is go to hotelfinancialcoach.com. It's going to ask you for your email address. I don't spam you. I don't sell it to anyone, so do not worry. But download my guidebook. It's 8,000 words. It's a great read. Share it with the people inside of your organizations. With that as well, I have lots of free tools and treats that I offer on my website. You're going to get a copy of this presentation so you can have a detailed look at that. Send me an email and I will personally reply. Now, if I get like thousands of them, I don't know what I'll do, but I have some help, so we'll take care of that for you. But please reach out. I also want to show you really quickly something I have that I'm going to offer all of you at a very special price today. It's a quick introduction of my video series. Hi, my name is David Lund, and I am the Hotel Financial Coach. I've helped hundreds of leaders overcome their fear and confusion around the numbers. My dream is that our whole industry can transform itself and become financial leaders. Not about accounting, it's about financial leadership. Without financial leadership skills, your career is never really going to be where you want it to be. And if you can't master your numbers, and if you're not confident talking about the business that you have and the strategy around your hotel, then you're never ever really going to get ahead in your career. Financial leadership is what's missing. So I invite you to check out my video series. I have over 100 different videos that explain all kinds of financial concepts and also very in-depth discussions around everything you need to know to become a financial leader. It's very accessible and it's something that you can learn and bring into your world to help you grow your career. That's really what it's all about. Thank you. So you're going to get some links at the end of the presentation that there's some free videos. I also encourage you to go to my YouTube page. But if you actually want to purchase the series, it's all available. You'll get the links and it's available to all of you at a very special price. And again, invest in yourself. This is a great opportunity for you to take this time that's downtime and turn it into productive time and come out of this being more prosperous. How else can I help you? Well, I write a weekly blog, so sign up. You get a copy of that every Monday into your inbox. Find me, follow me on LinkedIn. I publish all kinds of stuff there as well. And I do have workshops that are available for hotel teams where in the past I've delivered them personally, but I also do webinars, and I'm doing a series actually starting tomorrow with an organization. And I want to thank everyone with that. And I know that the last thing is we've got some questions coming in. So with that, I'll turn it back.
Right. Thank you so much, David. That was very interesting, very engaging. We have, yes, a couple of questions coming through. First of all, I would like to share with you a comment from one of our attendees. Gopi Jogi says, thank you for sharing those insights. They were very great. and he also believes that you have taught your team how to fish rather than feeding him feeding your team for a day. So that was wonderful. He says, thank you for that. Fabulous. Shan has a question, I think, that's very, very relevant and is at the back of everybody's mind. And let me read it out for you. He says, the hospitality industry tells us from day one that if you take care of your staff, they will take care of your guests. And I take your point about owners bearing all the financial risk. But having turned handsome profits year on year when the world is hit with a situation as severe as this, don't you think it's appalling that the first thought most of them have is to cut costs and send staff on a furlough? What do you think, David? What is your take on this?
I couldn't agree more. And I actually published a blog this week called "What's the Difference Between an Expense and an Investment?" And I really was very pointed about the fact that when this time has passed and we're looking to get our colleagues to come back, that we can actually find them to come back. And we do need to do things differently in the future, and investing in the future of our leaders by training them and by giving them skills, and not simply, opening the door the next time there's a crisis, but actually doing things differently and investing in our people. And today, more than ever, people want to work for companies that invest in them. So what I would say to each and every individual is, when you go back to work, you're going to have a choice as to who you work for. So find the company that's going to invest in you.
Another question, I think one of our last questions we could take because of the time running out, is coming from Shashank Vijay. And he wants to know, how do you think the role of internal audit would change after this crisis? What do you think would happen to internal audit?
Well, internal audit's just a fact of life, and it is something that's very important for companies to be able to say to their shareholders that we've ticked all the boxes and we've checked all the things. So I think there'll be probably more scrutiny going forward. That's sort of been the evolution of audit in the past, and I think in the future it's going to be even more important to be able to tell our investors and shareholders that we are a safe business.
Just one last question I would like to direct to you. A question that came on earlier on during our session, and I held it off until you could come on, was from Ahmed Khan, who wanted to know, he says, COVID-19 has practically wiped out people's wealth, and this will definitely reduce people's travel activities. Do you see, big groups that are generally too big to fail in terms of hotel groups, would they start failing because of the reduced travel activities? What do you think?
Well, I think there's going to be a big correction in our world and in our industry, and there will be hotels that fail. And through this cycle, there will be tremendous opportunities for new people to enter into our business. And when there's, a serious event like the one we have now, the people that are the most prepared are going to be the ones who prosper the most afterwards. And that's just a natural cycle of any kind of life. And so, my mom and dad always told me to prepare for a rainy day, and it's raining. And I tell my children, I have 3 children, I tell them the same thing. We got to be ready in life for the rainy day. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of companies that fail and hoteliers that fail. And that's unfortunate, but it's a lesson for all of us, an important one.
Thank you, David. Thank you so much. David, of course, there are a few more questions that are popping up, and what we do is direct them to you, and we post it on your page or your LinkedIn profile. Tinashe, we see your question. It's a very relevant question. Please do write to David, ask him. He did share his email ID earlier. And also, guys, you can follow David on Instagram. The Hotel Financial Coach is right there on your screens, as you can see it. David, thank you so much once again for taking the time out to be with us this evening. God bless you. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we hope you stay with us to the rest of the evening. Thank you so much. It's now time for us